I want to welcome you to the continuation of Elevate Rapid City's virtual trainings. We are so glad you're here today. This is one way that Elevate and all of the presenters are trying to give back to our community during this time, and I'm just so proud to be a part of it. A series of trainings are going to be offered that cover everything from health insurance, mental health, marketing, business resources. If you missed a training, you can find the previous webinars on Elevate Rapid City YouTube channel, and you can view upcoming webinars on the Elevate Rapid City page. My name is Tracy Polachek. I'm from Polachek Therapy and Consulting. I've been doing mental health therapy and social work here in Rapid City and the surrounding areas for over 20 years. I love this area. I love our community. My passion is really helping people both individually through therapy and coaching, and also helping agencies and businesses really maximize potential to reach goals. So often it comes down to communication, it comes down to real intentional decision making, and it's all about relationships. So what I thought I would do today is talk to you a little bit about employer support for your employees during this time. And I'm not going to get into specific business practices. There's so many different businesses, but I am going to give you a few tips and things to build on as we go through. I'm going to be answering questions at the end of this presentation. So go ahead and put them in the Q&A or the chat. And when I'm done, I'll close down and then answer some of your questions via video. I want to let you know too that this is focusing on how you can help your employees. But one of the most important things to really consider is that you really have to take care of your own mental health. This is a stressful time. Changes are going to be happening. It's also an incredibly amazing opportunity for us to grow and change and tap into our own resilience. So I did a Facebook Live webinar, or Facebook Live for Elevate Rapid City about tips that you can do and practices you individually can do to start lowering your stress, taking care of yourself, getting yourself on a more even keel during this time of crisis. And I think you can view that on Elevate's Facebook page. You can also go to my Facebook page at Polachek Therapy and Consulting on Facebook. You'll have my information at the end of the webinar as well. But if you haven't reviewed it, it might be a good time to just do that. We have to secure our own oxygen mask before we can be a lifeline and a leader to the employees who really are going to be struggling as well. So I just wanted to offer that to you. I want to, oops, I'm sorry. Again, technology people. Here we go. There we go. I'm going to get started here. The first step that we're going to talk about is employee engagement. That's such a buzzword, employee engagement. What does it mean? We're going to kind of focus on it. These are the things we're going to actually delve into today. We're going to look at this. Every single thing on this list is about you deciding I'm going to have a proactive response in a situation that wants me to be reactive. I can react in fear. I can react in all different kinds of ways. But if I do proactive things during this time of crisis, I'm going to feel better. My employees are going to feel better. My business is going to go better. And we can all come through this on the other side. So what does employee engagement mean? Really, in this situation, it's kind of keeping yourself present to your employees, diving right in. No matter what your management style is before this, you really need to be seen as hands-on with the team, ready to jump in. This builds morale. This unifies the team. You need to know what's happening in real time so you can make decisions in your business. So if employees see you eating lunch with them, if they see you handling things that need to be done, they're going to be more apt to come to you if they have something they need to deal with that could impact your business. Walk around the office, just really be visible. The second thing is really to promote this team mentality. Remember that it is not you against them. And I think depending on your management style, you're either the coach or the hammer, right? Now, even those words, what's the difference between those words? A coach implies somebody who's coaching somebody to win for a team, who's in this together. Your success depends on my success, right? A hammer tends to be something that we do psychologically when we're feel stressed. We tend to say, all right, I'm enforcing the rules. None of this, none of this, none of this. We take kind of a parental approach. And while there's certain situations in which you need to be very firm and very direct, overall, the hammer approach, research tells us, does not promote long-term relationships. It does not promote recruitment and retention in your business. And in times of crisis, it can lead you to look as if you're not handling this well, and your employees can take that as a cue that, holy, if they're not handling it well, I don't know how I'm going to handle this. And it makes them very uncertain. So think about the team, that coaching mentality. You want to look for the wins. Everything that we're going to discuss today, these are the big overall goals in every situation. Look for the wins, especially in times of crisis. Employees really need to know they're doing well. You need to be really specific. We're going to go through some scripts today on how you can do that, but you want to go through looking for the wins. You're going to be bombarded with what's not working now, with what you have to accommodate. That's going to come. So you need to actively be looking for those wins. What are we doing well? How we're doing it? And then you need to let your employees know often and in a very genuine way. You want to create problem-solving groups. We're going to talk about this a little bit in our group check-in, but the problem-solving groups really should go to your employees first. People want to help. In times of crisis, there is nothing that lowers anxiety better than being able to help somebody else, being able to do something proactive. So look to your employees. You may need to bring some experts in, whatever your business is, but look to your employees first and say, how can we solve problems together? And I'm going to give you a template for that in our group check-ins later on. You want to create and maintain crisis communication channels. What's so cool about this is you have an opportunity to do things that are going to build relationships in a crisis that you're going to be able to carry forth once we're out on the other side of this. Some ideas are a Facebook page just for your employees, a email chain. It could be the good old-fashioned bulletin board. I don't know what you're using, but create and maintain those, meaning really be intentional about it. And don't just pass bad information. Making sure you're front-loading that Facebook page with funny memes, with cat videos, with whatever it is, with attaboys, with all those things on there. Front-load it with positive things. Employee recognition, anything that you can do, make sure you really direct your employees that this is the place I'm going to be communicating vital information. Make sure they have access to it, and make sure that this is maintained. They want clear, consistent, calm communication from their leader, their fearless leaders. And then last, you want to go ahead and plan ahead despite your stress during this time, despite the million things that you have to do right now to figure out how you're going to innovate in this time, how you're going to adapt. I really challenge you to sit down, and if you need to call a coach like myself, if you need to get some professional help to do this, sit down and really intentionally plan ahead and say, what can I offer in terms of concrete help or resources during this time? What kind of plan can I put together so that I can let my employees know that I have skin in the game, that I am going to offer you whatever it is I can offer. And we're going to have some ideas for that later on. I want to spend a little bit of time talking about proactive versus reactive leadership. I mentioned this a little bit before. The hammer and the coach, as we go through this, you may want to ask yourself the questions. How do I respond in crisis? How do I respond just in minor things? If somebody's late, if somebody's, struggling, how do I respond? If you have a relationship in place that's based on consistency, on respectful communication, on understanding, empathy for what your employees are going through, if you have that in place now, things are going to go better. These are going to be very easy to implement. If you don't, this could be a good time to consider, what do I need to change about leadership that actually would make me feel better about myself doing my job and help me retain and recruit employees and keep them loyal despite the challenges I have. It saves you money, and it really saves you a lot of stress. It's no fun, middle managers, owners, to always be the enforcer, always being that person that's having to just react. And so I encourage you to think about these themes as we go through this. One of my favorite techniques when I work with individuals or I work with agencies or businesses who are trying to improve communication and really increase outcomes, that's what this is all about, is the use of scripts. So a script is an intentional, generally written, I encourage you to start with a written document of things that you want to communicate, and you want to focus on the words you're using, and you want to focus on the process that you're doing and going through as you're using a script. So why use a script? Why write these down? Why sit down and think about how I should speak to people and how I should go and do an individual employee check-in? Well, often in crisis times when we get together and we have a million things going on and an employee throws something at us, we just react. We just off the cuff say something. We don't have a lot of intentional proactive communication sometimes, especially in fast-paced environments like a restaurant, any of those things. So when you're using a script, it allows you to slow down. It allows you to say, these are the important messages I want to get across. This is the information I want to get from my employee. And I'm going to write this down in my language using this process. And I'm going to sometimes keep the paper with me at first. But then I start to memorize these scripts. I can pull these out of my back pocket. If you, for example, wouldn't it be handy to have a script if employees ask you for money, right? Rather than, oh gosh, I don't know, or what about having a plan for that and having a script? Hey, Joe, I do have money available and I happen to have some left, and I choose to give out Walmart cards and I'm not out yet. So I will help you out, and here it is, and I hope things get better for you. Maybe that's your plan, to have Walmart cards and then you have a script to say. Maybe it's, Joe, I'm sorry, I never lend money to my employees, but I can put you in touch with some resources, or come meet with me and let's see if we can strategize resources. So this is a way that we could use scripts. Now, what I'm going to do and offer you today is how we utilize scripts for two important things that I think would be helpful to do with employees during crisis times. Now, many of you that are on this call are probably doing these things, so that's awesome. And if you have great ideas and things you're doing, put it in the chat, really teach other people. But what I thought you could really use today are two things. One proactive thing that you can do in a crisis that will help increase outcomes and lower stress for you and your employees is to do individual employee check-ins and do group check-ins. Now, based on the business that you're in, you're going to have to decide the frequency and the duration of these. I recommend you check in with your employees once a week, especially in the beginning of the crisis, and that you have a group meeting once a week. These do not need to be long meetings. Please do not subject people to long meetings. I am not a fan of meetings. I am a fan of really targeted, encouraging communication that increases outcomes. So what I've done is written two templates for you, one for an individual employee check-in and one for a group check-in. And I've put them on a piece of paper with my contact information, and that will be placed on Elevate Rapid City's business resource page. So you can go there and print this off. I encourage you to copy and paste this script. This is a starting point for you. You need to use this script in your words. You need to put in there information that's relevant to your business. But what I have done is give you a template for process. So we're going to go through those. And then, like I said, feel free to utilize those scripts going forward. So when we talk about an individual check-in with an employee, why would we want to do that? Now, in the past, I think in traditional business models, your employee check-in was mostly to say, how are you doing? Don't do this instead. In my field, we would do case consults a lot. So we're checking in with caseworkers. Where are you at? What do you need? How does this go? But the main purpose and goal for an employee individual check-in, if you want to increase outcomes in your business, is to build a relationship, to say, hey, I'm human, you're human. We still have professional boundaries, but I see you and I hear you, and I want to be that coach model because that's going to lower my stress, lower your stress, and increase our outcomes. So, number one should be relationship. We want to greet them. We want to say, hey, how are you? We also, as we're going through, and we'll do the script next, we're assessing the impact of this crisis on this employee. Many of you are already employing high crisis employees. These are employees that come from really unstable home lives. They might have 2 or 3 part-time jobs. They're single parents. They struggle with childcare, transportation, housing. And if they're already struggling and then we're putting them in this crisis in environment, you really need to know what the impact is on them. So you can know if there's anything you can do inside your business model that can help keep them employed during this time. You want to kind of assess for immediate needs. Is somebody really struggling with childcare? Is somebody really needs some extra food? I mean, these are kind of things that happen. Now, depending on the level, if you're an entry level position or maybe a mid-level position, your needs are going to be different. Perhaps your more middle class employee systems are not going to be struggling with the basics just yet, but they're really struggling with all my kids are home and I'm trying to homeschool and do webinars from my bedroom like I'm doing right now. Maybe they just have some real emotional struggles that are happening. So you're going to assess for those immediate needs. And then what are the potential future challenges for working? They're okay right now, but in the future, they're going to really be struggling when their rent is due or they're living with somebody and they need immediate help. You just want to get that information. I'm not saying you need to solve that, but you're going to want to get that information. You're going to want to say, is there anything I can do? And you're going to want to just keep that in case something comes up and you can help them. And then last but not least, your employee check-in should move into problem solving. What can we do right now? Is there something right now that needs to change? Is it the schedule? Is it something here? Can I help you do this in a different way? And wrap up with at least a couple of concrete things to do in this employee check-in. You want to be mindful. This does not have to be super formal. If you're running around a fast food place, you might just say, hey guys, I'm going to do an individual check-ins. I want to see where you're at. Grab a cup of coffee, come in here. You can literally do this in 15 minutes. Bring them in, say, hey, I just wanted to see where you're at, and don't make this a huge process. If they need longer time, do that. Please be mindful that you do it in a really private place that nobody else can hear. Just grab them, even if you have to go out to your car right now. It's really tough, but we can innovate. We can do this, right? So I'm going to show you this is the sample script. And again, this will be included on one document that you can print off and edit and modify to use in your specific situation. I want you to say this with genuineness. Now, when you first start out, you can print this off and just have it with you. Have a pen and act like you're taking notes. And you might want to take some notes, right? You might want to just have it with you so you don't forget things. As you go on, you're going to memorize this. This will be done in your way. You want to say this with genuineness. You want to make sure that the employee understands what you're asking. If anything else comes up, you can have a ready-made answer that says, I don't know the answer to that, but let me think about that and get back to you. That's another really good script to always have, right? So let's go through this. Bring in Joe and say, Joe, hey, I just want to check in with you and see how you're doing. Pause there. Let Joe just kind of give you what's going on and just say, Joe, you know, what are some of the biggest challenges you have right now? We're all in this together. What's going on? What are some of the biggest challenges? Again, here's where you're finding out and assessing need and impact. Do you have a plan, Joe? How are you dealing with this right now? How are you handling this? Take note, how can I support you? Is there anything I can do here to support you? Maybe it's something as simple as switching Joe to the night shift for a while. Maybe it's cross-training Joe. Either way, you're just asking, does he have ideas? People are their own best resource, right? Sometimes what we think is best for people, we're surprised when we stop to listen and ask, right? Is there anything you could think we can do here, Joe, that will help us reach our goals? And you could say things like, that will help us serve people better and more safely. Is there anything we can do to keep people on? And then you want to move into that idea of looking for the wins. You're going to do this in the individual check-in. You know, Joe, I noticed how you handled, and then cite a specific situation. Joe, I noticed how you handled that customer that came in and was really scared that we weren't practicing sanitary safety. And I loved how you handled that you calmed her down, that you showed her our policies, and that you reassured her. I liked how you did that. I really appreciate you hanging in here and being part of this team, especially with everything else that you're dealing with. And then you may want to end too with just saying, Joe, is there anything else before we go? Okay, so this gives you an idea of how we would do an individual check-in. So let's move on to the goals for the group check-ins. So I'm just saying group check-in instead of staff meeting because words are important. And when you say staff meeting, that conjures up a lot of horrible memories of staff meetings past. Staff meetings really should not be your primary way to disseminate important information, because often if it's important and it's complex, it should live in an email, it should live on a Facebook page or whatever you are creating and maintaining as far as a communication channel. You can remind people, you can disseminate a paper thing, but this really is an opportunity to unify your team relationship, right? And I'm sorry, this slide is a little different. I might have said the other one here, but the goals here is that you want to be proactive, assure them that their input is valuable. You want to make no promises about the process, but you want to get input from them. You want to say, hey, I'm encouraging you, and hey, here's some challenges we're facing. And you want to be mindful. If you received some things from corporate that were bad news and you're slamming doors and stomping around or complaining about it, that's really going to create morale problems for you, because people are going to feel unsettled by that. They're going to think, my leader can't handle emotions. My leader can't deal with bad news. So we want to really be mindful of that. In the group check-in, we want to encourage people. This is our coach pep talk, right? This is our team. This is our team. We want to always look for the wins. You can call people out, encourage them. Those are the goals for group check-ins. So we're going to go ahead and do the script for group check-ins. Now, remembering you need to modify this for your type of business, for the type of employees, the number of employees, that kind of thing. But you want to start by saying, I want you all to know how much I appreciate your hard work. I've noticed people pitching in, trading shifts, cleaning up, helping prep without being asked. Together, we've served, handled, sold, whatever your services are, be really specific. Together, we have define your success right there. And that is amazing considering these trying times. And then just say, you know, we have some other challenges that we need to tackle, and I'm really wanting to get your feedback. We are facing, and be as specific as you can without going into detail. It could be revenue losses, shortages, tough decisions about whether we're able to really keep operating. You know, you can say that at this time and just say, I want your feedback. Now you want to control this meeting as well. And so you want to decide ahead of time, like, how long are we doing this meeting? Studies really show that after you're encouraging, after you're getting feedback, you know, longer than 30 minutes for some of these meetings, people are just kind of done with it. So try to keep it to that. One idea I have is giving people ideas about how long you're going to get feedback. So you can say, does anybody have any ideas about how we can approach, and then state what you want feedback on. I'd like to spend about 10 minutes getting some ideas, or however many things you do that. Get a timekeeper. Because again, we want to make this a controlled relationship, encouragement, feedback session. Then you want to solicit that feedback, listen to it, really listen. Thank you for giving me that. I appreciate that. And then you want to end by really, again, we're not promising that you're going to use all this feedback, but people want to help. People want to feel like they're helping. And you can say, I appreciate all of your suggestions. I plan on considering these along with other factors I can't control. I'll let you know when and how I will communicate this information. And then say, you know, I may not be able to take all of your suggestions, but I will weigh this against the other factors I have to consider and those things. Then you want to redirect to your created and maintained communication channels. So you want to say, if anyone has questions, if anyone wants to schedule an appointment with me, reach out to me by, and then your communication channel. Be really consistent about that. The next thing that I really want you guys to consider is what you can offer during this time. Now, I know as employers, you are going to be going through one of the challenges, or one of the biggest challenges you may have ever faced. And so you may not be able to offer some of the things that I'm going to suggest, and that is okay. What you always can offer is kindness, encouragement. You can always offer to help redirect people to resources, and you can always offer your employees your time and respectful attention. And most of the time, that is absolutely enough. Employees do not expect their employers to solve their every problem. But I say this to you as a person that, often as community members, the way that we do business, the way we take care of our employees is one of the biggest things that we can do to support our communities. If you can change the way that you operate so that you feel more amazing going to work, you are less stressed out, you are recruiting people and retaining people who are sometimes hard to retain, they have high crisis lives, you're actually keeping somebody employed that has kids, and that's our community. I mean, that is an amazing, amazing thing that you can do. So I just want to say, consider utilizing some of these practices. And as we talk about what you can offer, sit down after you've kind of handled your own stress and say, what is it that I can do for my employees? These are just some ideas. Flexible scheduling. This is a huge one. If you can say to yourself right now, how can I be flexible in scheduling with each of my employees? If you have a big team, this could get a little more complicated, but if you're a small business and you're employing 2 or 3 single moms who are going to have some issues with childcare, sitting down and saying, when do you have childcare? When can you get here? How can we work together? Could be amazing. Or letting them take breaks so that they can transport their kids to other areas. Think about flexible scheduling, not just as a shift, but how can I do that? Can I switch anything that I'm doing to project-based work? A lot of us are doing this. This is for you folks who are managing office employees and you're trying to manage this remote telehealth. It is really difficult to keep track of all your hours every single day, knowing that you're home with your kids homeschooling. What if you said, listen, I just need to know that this project is done by Friday and we're switching to project-based work. You're not so concerned how many hours they're spending on those things. That can be a form of flexible scheduling. Bring this up in the problem-solving groups. Bring this up with your employees. They are awesome and resourceful. Ask them about scheduling. What could we do that could still serve our customers or serve our business and keep us going? And how could we do this to adjust this? Would it be a big deal in your business to open up during the current crisis 2 hours later and stagger shifts? Really get together and flesh those things out. I want to talk a little bit about additional sick and personal leave. It's very, very exhausting, depending on the size of your team, to have to field individual requests for time off. Now, in this situation, it happens to involve a sickness. So one thing that I saw a company doing in Missouri is they just blanketly gave everybody 40 hours of sick time, just off the bat. And that did a couple of things. One, it removed that individual case by case, which can be really, really admin heavy for managers and for owners who are already working in a crisis. And it just said, take your sick time. They also, in light of that, they were able to do that because their workers weren't necessarily having to cover for one each other. So another idea that you could do is offer tickets, 4 tickets. This is going to give you 30 minutes or an hour to take care of some emergency needs. And all you need to do is find somebody to cover your duty, turn in that ticket to me, and it's covered. Give people these tickets up front. and then give them opportunities if they cross train or if they help out in a certain way to earn extra tickets. Maybe they can add those tickets up for an entire day off if they get it covered. Those are just some ideas. Cross training is something that a lot of businesses are doing right now to keep their doors open. How can you be creative in this cross training? Can you keep people coming in? Can you teach people to do other jobs so that there is more coverage? Can you look and see if people want to be trained in different areas that they might not have considered before? Can you bring your staff into a place where they can get together during your problem solving groups and say, these are the jobs I need? Do you need additional jobs? Do you need a sanitation expert now? Do you need somebody to go around and really do some different things? Do you need to create a new position that you can cross-train for? Info on resources. This is something that I think is really vital. Many of these employees, if you have to make the tough decision to lay off employees or to close for a period of time, some of your employees may never have accessed public resources before, and this is a very scary time for them. One really good website or webpage is 211 that has a lot of lists of where food is being offered, utility assistance, rental assistance will hopefully be coming down the pike as well. And you can make that available in your created and maintained communication chain. Food, childcare, and transportation are going to be issues for everybody during this in probably in some way, shape, or form. Can you as a business provide food in a way that you haven't before? For example, if you're a restaurant, at the end of the day, is it within your scope to say whatever leftover food is left, we're going to box it up and just distribute it to our families, to our employees to take home to their families? If people have food, they can divert other income to other emergency expenses. So that's a wonderful way of doing that if you have that opportunity. Childcare, in this situation, we're trying to social distance, so childcare might not be an option. But when this is over, and maybe if this is something we can do, can we provide childcare somehow? Can we provide access to resources? Can we allow people to stay home with their kids and work night shifts if their kids are under a certain age? Can we be creative about that? Many of you offer transportation assistance. It's a huge issue here in Rapid City, but for the foreseeable future, if somebody's struggling and the only reason they can't come into work is they can't get there reliably, can you work within your groups, your problem-solving groups, and say, who can pick up so-and-so on your way into work? Who can share shifts during this crisis and pick up so-and-so? And could you as an employer offer a gas card to whoever would do that? Would that be an option for you to do? I think another big thing that is going to probably be more and more needed as this goes on is the need for mental health or emotional support. And while I've given you some tips to provide that, sometimes you need a professional. If your agency or business cannot afford to have an IEP where people can go in and get counseling, nowadays we're doing teletherapy, you could contact a professional like myself. I often go into businesses, especially if there's been a death, a loss, or some big thing that's happened, and I do a day rate, and I have 30-minute employee support sessions. Now I can offer this through telehealth as well. You might want to set that up if you see that employees are really needing to talk, maybe down the road, and you'll have my information to do that if that's something you're interested in. If you can include it in your insurance, it's going to be needed more than ever for your employees and yourself to seek out some professional mental help during this crisis. Also, just having one of the ways we do these 30-minute check-ins now with technology, they can actually, if you can just do it at work. Say, I'm going to authorize a 30-minute session once a week that you can do on a 30-minute break, and they can go to a private place, probably their car, get on their cell phone and have a session with a support person like myself. So that's something to really consider as well. That's really all I have today. I want to thank you for tuning into today's training. I'm going to go ahead and leave this up for just a second. So if anybody needs this, again, you can, this is also, my information is also on the employee check-in resource template script page that's going to be housed on Elevate's business resources. So if you want to contact me, my email and phone is there. I'm going to try to click out of this or have the moderator click out of this so I can go ahead and answer. Okay, here we go. And I'm going to pull up the chat and see if I can do this. Right? Okay. Okay, I'm going to try to see here. Okay. Okay, is somebody in the chat right now? Is there anybody in the chat that can just type something to make sure? I'm making sure my screen is refreshed. George from Meals on Wheels is joining us. Hi, George. We're gonna say a shout out to George from Meals on Wheels. There's so many people in our community right now out there trying to help people, especially the most vulnerable. So I just want to shout out to George. And as I'm looking at the chat, if you want to ask a question, please do so or make a comment. I'll give you a shout out. I also want to say too, I'm going to give a shout out to Black Hills Works. I contacted my friend Tanya Fritz contacted me. And, you know, some of the things that they're doing for their employees are just what we've talked about. They are instituting some flexible work schedules. They're training and they're supporting staff. So they're doing a lot of cross training. They are providing mental health through their insurance and sharing info. They're doing daily wellness emails to encourage staff to be well spiritually, emotionally, physically. They have created and are maintaining some resource sharing. And I thought this was a really cool thing that they're doing too. They're actually offering no interest crisis loans to some of their employees. And that is an awesome, awesome thing to do. So shout out to them doing that. So it doesn't look like we have any other questions in the chat, so I'm going to leave you guys here. But I want to say again, if you would like to see tips on mental health, go to my Facebook page, Polachek Therapy and Consulting on Facebook. Check out the scripts on the Elevate's business resource page, and you can also find links to all the other virtual trainings they're doing. What an awesome way to support your community, to listen to these webinars and see if there's anything there that we can take through these trying times. So I appreciate you all, and I'm going to be doing this training again on next Tuesday at 1 o'clock if you wanted to invite others who might have missed it to see it. And I believe this will be recorded as well and live on the YouTube page for Elevate. So take care, everybody.